Our next artwork is also by Hans Holbein the Younger. Oh, I forgot to mention this before, but his name, Hans Holbein the Younger, his name is Hans Holbein, but the term younger, it's a way of differentiating him from his father, who was also a painter and was known as Hans Holbein the Elder. It's kind of the same as like a senior and a junior. So his dad was Hans Holbein Sr. and he's Hans Holbein Jr. Okay? Okay. So Hans Holbein is the court painter to Henry VIII and does many significant and influential portraits of important people who were a part or had visited Henry VIII's court during his reign. And this here is a portrait of two French ambassadors who had visited the court of Henry VIII in England. This is Jean de Dinteville. He was a nobleman, and his very close friend, bestie, Georges de Selve, who was a Catholic bishop. And both of them, the nobleman and the Catholic bishop, were sent by France to Henry in a plea for peace and a return to the Catholic faith. Because remember, Henry had separated from the Catholic faith and had joined the Protestant Reformation. And so these two ambassadors were sent on this impossible task to ingratiate and encourage Henry to come back into the Catholic fold and to ease tensions between England and France, because, oh my gosh, we can't even get into it. But England and France, they're like always fighting all the time. They're just long standing grudges. So what do we see here? We see them standing on either side of two shelves. And then behind them, we have this gorgeous green damask silk curtain. It's called damask silk because of this pattern back there. Isn't it beautiful? Now, Hans Holbein was trained in Flanders, and his use of oil paint is similar to the kind of masterworks that we saw by Jan van Eyck and Roger van der Weyden. His ability to capture texture of soft silk and fur and tapestries. It's just mesmerizing. He presents them here, just so you know their names. That's Jean de Dinteville, and that's Georges de Selve. He presents them here on either side of this two-tiered bench. And the objects on the bench are rendered in such high detail that we're encouraged to come in and take a closer look. Now, the painting originally hung in Jean de Dinteville's family estate back in France. And their ages are also painted in the scene. Jean de Dinteville's age is here on the hilt of his sword. He's 28, and Georges is 24, and it's on the Bible there. Now, as I said, we're encouraged to look at these details. On the top shelf, Hans Holbein has arranged a collection of objects. We see an astronomical model, there's a sundial, there's a compass, there's books, there's math diagrams, all of these different elements, or I should say tools, that humans use to measure and understand and control the physical world around them, right? If you think about it, these maps and these tools of measurement are used to identify not only where you are, but where they are, and then what's mine, what's yours. So this whole level here is one of instruments of understanding and control over the natural world. The lower shelf is in contrast to the upper shelf. The objects here are in connection to religion, to faith, things that are less tangible. How so? Well, we have here a lute, A lute is like a guitar. Its characteristic is this large body, and beneath it is a book of songs, a book of hymns. Hymns are religious songs, but when we look at it in more detail, what we see is that this is a specific translation by the leader of the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther. Martin Luther had translated in service of his Reformation a book of hymns, and that is what we're looking at here. Sorry for that glitch. Okay, so yes, we see the book of hymns translated by Martin Luther, and then we assume that it's going to be played on this lute. However, when we take a closer look at the lute, do you see what's wrong? Can you tell? String. A string has snapped. A string is broken. Now let's think about the symbolism and the practicality of a broken string. So you're strumming along and then cling, there's discord. There's a lack of harmony now. Things have snapped. Things are broken. There's also on this shelf a cartographer's compass for measurements of distance and a world map. So what we have on the shelf is an acknowledgement of the Protestant Reformation and the disharmony and the fracturing of their known world, in opposition to this control over the world, right? So when we pull back and look at this, here, using our term iconography, yes, we can think of that broken lute string as a form of iconography. But when we pull back and look at these two shelves between these two men and remember what their role, their purpose was as ambassadors, was one to control and create harmony, to perhaps mend or fix those broken strings. The elements are also a way to reflect upon their own understanding, their own education, that tapestry, this rug here between them. If we were an aficionado of textiles and fine luxury items from that time, we would easily recognize that as a Persian rug. So a rug that comes all the way from Persia. It's an import into England. It's extremely expensive, extremely impressive. So we see the two men standing on either side of these highly sophisticated instruments as being worldly men. And very well dressed, very richly dressed, right? So we're not even going to get into their amazing costumes. Instead, I want us to pay attention to something below. See it? Now, some students, when they look at this, they know exactly what they're looking at. Others, they find it kind of a struggle. So you're supposed to stand in front of the painting and then move to the sides of the painting. You're supposed to view it from the front and then stand to the side and view it again. And while it was originally hung in the nobleman's house, it was purchased by the National Gallery in London, and it's still on display there. And the way they have it displayed is to allow for you to see it from the front, and then you can see this little notch on the sides so that you can see it from the side. Because when you move to the side, this blob of gray and brown and black comes into a recognizable image. A skull. Yeah, I know. Some of you are like, duh, and others are like, what the? So This type of distorted image that you can only see from a certain vantage point is your next vocabulary term, anamorphic image. A distorted image that must be viewed from by some special means to be recognized. And that's what we're seeing here. So the special means is you have to come at it from the side. And when you do, that forced perspective then comes together to create this skull. Hans Holbein's not the only one to do it. It was extremely popular at this time to play with optics and give these kind of distorted, warped paintings. And then like you would have to view it from like a corner or from this frame, and then it would all come together. So it's a very fashionable thing for it to be included in this painting. But why a skull? Like, it could have been anything, like a puppy. So why a skull? And then this skull. I mean, it looks menacing. It looks haunting. It's missing teeth. It's grimacing almost. In terms of iconography, skulls are like death. So why place this menacing skull of death at the feet of these two men? Now, if we were in class together, you'd be shouting your answers. Probably saying stuff like, it's because they're goth. No, that's not it. You and I can talk about goth later, but that's not it. Okay, what else? They want to say that death comes for everybody. Whoa, very smart. Yes. So the use of a skull in an artwork is often a memento mori. And that's your next vocabulary term. Memento mori, it translates to a reminder of death, a reminder of human mortality, usually represented by a skull. So now let's backtrack and think again. This painting of religious conflict, religious war, and man's desire to control it. These two ambassadors sent to Henry VIII, who has given up the Catholic faith, established a new religion in order to get what he wants, to control. This could be seen as perhaps a plead to Henry. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're trying to control. Is that really going to be for the best? Or is it going to bring death and pain and destruction in the form of this skull? Even the fact that it's put at this strange, elongated angle, or what's the vocabulary term? Anamorphic image. Yes, yes. The reason that I bring that back is because not only is it fashionable, but you have to literally change your point of view to make it make sense. And think about when you are in an argument with somebody and you need to win. If you've been in a debate club, the best preparation for a debate or an argument is to prepare not only your argument, but change your perspective. Think about their argument. Come at it from another angle. A new solution should be present. That's literally what you have to do to see this painting fully. You literally have to change your position, change your perspective. If you're still unconvinced, I have a video I want to show you of me doing this at the National Gallery. Here we go.
That's way bigger than I remember.
So it's there, and it's the reason why we look at this painting, because we see this as not only a portrait of two men who were ambassadors to the king of England at that time. But we see this as a statement of acknowledging the tension, acknowledging the discord, the disharmony, and their pleads for trying to come at this another way. A solution should be found. It's a great painting, isn't it?